I just need to say, this is one of the funnest interviews I've ever done in my life, man. I'm not lying to y'all, bro.
Thank you.
I'm telling you, this is why I should have been Puerto Rican, bro. This is why.
¿Y yo qué está pasando? Y él dice, es que torneo dispositivo. Y yo, ¿qué? Positivo.
¿Te gusta?
Bueno,
la analítica o la información te gusta.
Bueno, con la analítica la gente no tiene que pensar tanto, ¿entiendes? Ya lo del el baseball sense y todo eso, eso ya pues lo estás tirando a la borda.
Hermano, yo no quería firmar porque lo que ellos me estaban ofreciendo era lo que tú lo acabas de decir, $10,000, pero no me querían pagar mi educación.
Wow.
Y yo lo que le decía a ellos, oye, olvídense de darme bonos, paguen mi educación, porque yo quería que mi educación estuviera pagada.
No olviden que hay que pensar, hay que estar delante. Si ellos te están trayendo una mente y tú pones la tuya a funcionar, son dos mentes trabajando, eres más fuerte.
Y me dice ayer, oye cabrón, ¿verdad que voy a hablar ya ayer? No te pares a batear, salte de ahí que esto está bien rico.
2017, eso siempre se me va a quedar. Ese clásico, demasiado en ambas, en la ofensiva y defensiva, o sea, tuve buen clásico. Y defensivamente ese clásico tuvo demasiado, viví mucho.
Era súper diferente y uno tirando 25 entradas en 60 juegos para un relevista es demasiado, porque en 60 juegos jamás tú vas a tirar 25 hits. Cogiendo la base y parándote y dándote un selfie.
He dicho nombre, no he dicho nombre todavía. Saludos mi gente y bienvenido a otro Facebook Live más de Me Gustan Los Deportes junto a Baerga y sus amigos. Este es amigo de siempre, Arnold Palillito Santiago, dándole la bienvenida. Ya usted sabe, comparte el video, derechea este programa especial, horario especial. Yo sé que estamos llegándolos a ustedes a la hora del mediodía, pero nada, buen provecho a todos. Esto es entrevista especial, entrevista que tiene que llevarse un horario especial definitivo para ustedes, así que ya lo saben, gracias siempre por el apoyo que nos dan a todos nosotros a través de las redes sociales. Ya estamos ya usted sabe, llegando a muchísima gente otra vez, y es todo gracias a ustedes que están por ahí, a todos los que están conectados con nosotros. Y ahora le damos la bienvenida al estudio, mi partner, el ex Grandes Ligas, Carlos Baerga. Saludos, Carlos.
Saludos, Palillito, y saludos a toda la gente que está conectada con nosotros. Qué bendición Dios nos da de poder compartir con una de las grandes estrellas de las Grandes Ligas, Salón de la Fama. Sabes que Barry Larkin, uno de los peloteros más atléticos que yo tuve la oportunidad de ver jugar, y de verdad que sus números impresionantes. Pero usted sabe que aquí es donde usted se va a enterar de la historia que él tuvo para poder llegar a Grandes Ligas.
Bueno, y eso es así, señores, y como quiera, no importa la hora que sea, siempre es perfecto, mire, para una excusa y usted decir, mira mami, vamos a comprar una bolsita de tostitos, vamos a comprar una salsita de tostitos. Pues mire, ahora, a esta hora es perfecto. El programa de nosotros, como siempre, la excusa perfecta para que usted compre su bolsita, su salsa, la original, la de queso, o como siempre le digo, la favorita de mi familia, mi esposa y mis hijas, la de aguacate con pique. Usted tiene que, mire, meterle mano a la bolsita de tostita y la salsa, porque es el matrimonio perfecto, y sin olvidar que es lógico, la excusa perfecta para vernos a nosotros. Si usted está en Puerto Rico y tiene un plan médico, como siempre le decimos, que no los pone a jugar, que no los trata bien, que usted no se siente bien con ese equipo, si necesita ser parte de un equipo con un plan médico, mire, Baerga tiene suyo ya.
Eso es así, es el plan médico que te da más es First Medical. Es por eso, sabes que con $69.21 mensual puedes tener la amplia red de proveedores con un 100% de hospitales, beneficios en farmacias, visión, dental, seguro de vida, y obtiene un cero copago en los Metro Pavía Health System y Metro Pavía Clinic. Llama ahora al 888-801-0801 o inscríbete a firstmedicalpr.com. El plan que te da más y es la bandera de salud para ti y tu familia.
Bueno, así que ya lo saben, señores. Mire, de verdad que esta entrevista es Salón de la Fama, ¿vale? Esto no es ni entrevista de Grandes Ligas nada más. Anoche tuvimos con nosotros a Luis Tián, aquí, ¿sabes? Lo que hemos tenido para ustedes, y gracias al apoyo que nos dan ustedes, ¿vale? Pues entonces podemos llevarle a ellos todo esto, pero esta entrevista, yo no sé, a mí me llena de emoción saber que lo vamos a tener aquí en vivo con ustedes, porque es un jugador, Baerga, que significó demasiado para una franquicia y también para la gente que decía que no puede jugar campo corto, que el muchacho no puede hacer esto, y de verdad el tipo no solo jugó campo corto, fue caballete.
Fue caballete en la Grandes Ligas, sus números impresionantes, y usted va a ver de dónde salió él para convertirse en pelotero, donde todo parecía que iba a ser otro deporte. Aquí es que usted se va a enterar.
Bueno, así que señores, vamos ya sin más preámbulo a darle la bienvenida al invitado del día de hoy, y si usted no sabe quién es, pues ya usted sabe que nosotros siempre le damos un like.
Larkin rams one to deep left. Truck going back, and this one's gone. Well, Barry Larkin gets his first major league home run.
And counter that on a long fly ball. There's a long drive, left center, and Larkin has hit another one. Barry Larkin unloaded his 12th home run to tie his best year in the big leagues. That's the third time he's hit 12 in the season, but here we are on June 28th, and he's done it to give the Reds a 2-0 lead.
Add 2 or 3. Swing and a drive deep into right field. That ball is gone. Home run, Barry Larkin. His 8th of the year, and the Reds lead it 5-1. Well, Barry going the opposite way, just to the left of the 370 marker and deep right center.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We got our the Hall of Famer, Barry Larkin. Bienvenido a Me Gustan Los Deportes junto a Baerga y sus amigos in Spanish and everything. You see, we got you going now.
Gracias. It's a pleasure. Es un placer estar aquí con ustedes. Carlos Baerga, ¿cómo está?
Muy bien, mi amigo. What an honor we have to have one of my best friends. This guy speaks a little bit Spanish. Mucho, Palillito, mucho, because he practices every day with the Latino players. But this guy is a very special guy. I had the opportunity to practice with him because I never, make it, in the club, because when I got to Cincinnati, I was hurt. But God gave me the opportunity to watch him play a lot. And there was a special guy, a clutch guy fielding, clutch guy hitting. When you need to catch the ball, this guy catches. When you need to get a base hit to tie the game or to get ahead, this guy was a clutch. That's why I call him Mr. Clutch. What an honor to have you today with us, Barry. What a special guy. Barry, where are you from?
Well, I'm from Cincinnati, originally from Cincinnati, but I live now in Florida. My mother's from Texas. My mother's grandmother was from small town in Mexico, actually. So I have a little Latin blood in me. It's a unchin. It's a very small piece, but it's in there. It's in there. So all my Latin brethren, I'm happy to be here with you.
There you go. I mean, I'm Baerga too. I mean, my oldest brother, godfather, is Tony Perez. And if he played with Tony for so long as a coach and all this, I'm pretty sure he learned some Spanish, because Tony wasn't going to talk too much English. He didn't like talking that way. But that was great. Barry, when you were growing up, I mean, so people know, I mean, were you just playing sport or baseball, or you were playing all the sports? I mean, how you were growing up?
No, when I was growing up, I had an opportunity. Obviously, I played baseball, but my best friend was a kid by the name of Leo Cardenas Jr., and his father, Chico, played for the Reds from Cuba. So we had some real strong baseball people in our lives early, but I certainly played all the other sports. I played football and I played basketball as well. No football, soccer, but those were the sports that we played, and we were always active. And if we didn't have a game, we were playing something and competing and doing something. So it was always about competition. We were playing sports, we were competing in sports. But if we weren't playing in a sport, we were competing in something else.
When you realize that you have that talent to play baseball, because I know that you play both sports, but then you decide to to say, well, I play football, but I like baseball too. So did anybody say to you, quit football to play baseball?
Actually, I played football and baseball and basketball throughout high school. Well, my senior year in high school, I did not play basketball, but I went to University of Michigan. And the reason I went to University of Michigan is because they were going to allow me the opportunity to play both football and baseball. And my freshman year, the football coach called me into his office and told me that he was going to have to, what they call redshirt me. So he's going to have to not allow me to play that first freshman year of football. And he was going to let me just play baseball. So it was the first time in my life that I just played one sport, baseball. And I guess I was 17 years old. And I was working out, getting prepared for football. So I made the jump from high school. I was 18 years old. I made the jump from high school to college. And I was maturing as a young man. I was getting stronger. I was working out for football, which is totally different than working out for baseball. And I was getting bigger and stronger. And then I noticed that when I was at the university, I noticed how big the athletes were in football and how they weren't not so big in baseball. So I was getting bigger and stronger, and I didn't have to deal with 300-pound linemen or 220-pound running backs. And so I just played baseball. It was the first time in my life, but it wasn't my decision. It was the decision of the head football coach, Bo Schembechler, who decided that I was just going to play baseball. And then after that, I played well in baseball. I did well, and I didn't have some of the injuries that I had with football. So I decided after that I would just continue to try to play baseball.
And it's good that you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you that too about the injury. Maybe without knowing, I mean, he saved you from a lot of tough injuries, because that's how it is. You go to college and you think that everybody's going to be the same that you have in high school, but there's some animals there when you go there. Because when I went to Iowa, they wanted me to try football. We don't play football, Puerto Rico, Baerga, so I had no idea. I was like, yeah, I could hit people. Let's go hit people. One practice a week. I was like, one practice a week?
Yeah.
Really? That's what we're going to do? Yeah, because you get beat up so much. And I was like, I'm done with this. So I could understand. And you weren't a tall guy, of course. Right. So, I mean, you were going to get probably hurt more than you thought. But I mean, when you were, how important was for you after you jumped to professional baseball? How important you think it was going to college? Now that we got a lot of kids that are between that, if we're going to go to college or we try to sign from high school, the draft is getting smaller. I mean, how important was for you to go to college?
Very important for me. Education was really important in my family. So I wanted to make sure that I kept the legacy, because my mother and my father are both from the South. So I mentioned my mother is from Texas and my father is from Mississippi. And it was very important for them to make sure to get out of their situation where they were born and to be able to further themselves, and neither one of them participated in professional sports. So they have to use their mind and their education to kind of get out of their circumstances and continue to progress and be able to achieve some level of financial success. So education was important to them, and therefore education was important to me. So I had an opportunity to go sign out of high school, but I made a commitment to my mother and mi abuela that I would go to college and continue my education. And then after I signed professionally to play with the Reds, I went back to finish up and get my college degree. So education was important.
Good.
And it was to me.
Good.
Now, that's not the case for every player. That's not the case for every athlete. You know, there's some guys that don't do well in school. I happen to do well in school. So I think it's an individual thing. I don't think there's one way to do anything. There's so many different ways. But for me personally, education was really important and a high priority. And that's why I decided to go to college.
Perfect.
Barry, you was 2-time All-American, and you guys make it birth to 2 college World Series, 1983, 1984, and you was a Big Ten Player of the Year 1984, 1985. You have a lot of talent, to do that. That was a special time. And then you made the USA team in 1984. The USA team. Barry Bonds played that team, yeah?
No. Barry Bonds. No.
McGuire was there. McGuire was there.
McGuire was there. Oda B. McDowell, Shane Mack, Will Clark was there. John Marzano was there. Gary Green was the short. Gary Green was the shortstop. Smooth feeling shortstop. Alfaro. What was his name? Alfonso, something like that. He was the second baseman. I think he just passed. Bless his soul. But I was on that team, but I couldn't play. The coach of that team,
being a player of the year, bro. I played with Gary. I played with Gary Green in AAA. That guy never hit. He catch the ball. That's it.
I know. Let me tell you the story, right? So, so I was a sophomore at the time. So I was 19, and I was 18 or 19, and this was the first year that baseball was a demonstration sport in the Olympics. And the Olympic team had an agreement with Major League Baseball to allow drafted players to participate. So it had not happened before, but it was a demonstration sport. So what I was told was that all the guys that got drafted in 1984 were the guys that were going to play. So they didn't expect me to make the team, right? But because I did well, I made the team, but they didn't play me. And it was the first time in my life that I had to deal with like sitting on the bench. And I knew I should have been playing. I'm not going to say nothing about Gary Green. You already said it. Flavio Alfaro.
I know.
Flavio, yeah. I'm not going to say anything about them. See, tú sabes.
Flavio Alfaro.
Sí, yo sé. So,
I play with Gary Green. Never.
That's all I'm saying. And it was the same back then, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't play. Now of course I wasn't as polished a player as I was when I made it to the big leagues and played in the big leagues, but obviously the talent was there. But Rod Dato, who was the coach out at USC, he was the head coach, and I would go in and I talk to him and I say, "Hey, coach," or whatever I said, like, "Is there anything I could do to like play?" And he's like, "Do you want to be on this team?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to be on the team." "Well, you just be ready when I tell you to be ready."
Wow.
Hey, caramba. I was like, did I do something or something? Yeah.
I mean, but it just don't make no sense. I mean, because I understand if somebody else is gonna play above you, but I mean, you guys have enough talent that you could play one guy one game, another guy another. I mean, you could do a lot of things, and if not, I mean, what's the point of bringing Barry Larkin or anybody in the team if he's not gonna play? I don't get it. I mean, in Puerto Rico, you would be the shortstop.
Well,
you'll be with us. You'll be there.
I think it was simply because of the agreement that they have with Major League Baseball. I mean, because it was like super obvious that these guys, and before we actually played in the Olympics, that happened to be in Los Angeles, we did a tour of the U.S. and so we were going to different cities, and and I guess they wanted to highlight the players that got drafted, because I was just basically a caddy, but I'm telling you, and Flavio, but I used that experience. I used that experience as fuel, because it really showed me some of the politics of sport. It was the first time that I was directly affected by something on the baseball field other than just my ability and my success or lack of success. It was like no matter what I did and how well I did, I was not going to get that opportunity.
Yeah.
And so it gave me a different perspective. And at the time, I was just mad about it. But later on, I saw things happening to other players and how they reacted. And then I saw, oh, okay, I understand what that player is going through. So I was able to be more sympathetic to different players. And I think because of that, it was able to, you know, I was the captain of the team because of my relationship with the players. It allowed me to have a little better perspective to understand some of the things that the guys that weren't the frontline guys, some of the things that the replacement guys were going through. So, you know, every experience for me, I try to make a positive out of everything. At the time, it wasn't positive, but afterwards,
I bet you, your mom and dad are like, don't worry about it. You go to college. Don't worry about it. You're okay. You'll be all right.
Yeah. They were like that. They were like that. But, you know, I didn't want to hear that at 18 and 19 years old.
I know.
If I'm a better player, I got to play, right? Right.
Yeah. How you win the player of the year and you don't play with the national team? That's amazing. I never gonna see it. But Palillito.
No, that's interesting. I mean, but all of a sudden, they comes you get drafted by the Reds and all that. First round pick. First of all, you got drafted second round, don't it?
See, in high school, in '82, I got drafted by the Reds in the second round.
And then you were drafted then in the first round in 84, isn't it?
85, first round.
85.
Yeah.
And it was nice because I remember hearing people talking about, you know, Pete Rose came from Cincinnati, and you know, he's the Ohio guy, our man, and everybody kept saying, you know, this first round pick from Ohio, from Cincinnati. I mean, this could be the next guy too that could be here for a long time. But at that time, I mean, you're just probably happy you just got drafted and you're ready to play baseball. I mean, how that moment felt when they call you and tell you that you're in the first round. Now you could watch it on TV, but now that back then it was just get a phone call.
Yeah, back then it was just a phone call, and you know, it's a lot different now than it was back at that time. But you know, I was excited about it, and you know, it was something that I was concerned that when I did not accept the draft because I wanted to go to school, I was concerned that the Reds would not have another opportunity to draft me because, you know, what was being said is I was going to be a high round draft pick. And if the Reds did well, then they wouldn't have a draft pick until later on in the first round. So I wouldn't be around. So I heard that the Reds and the Pirates were talking about, and I was a big Pirate fan also because of Roberto Clemente. So I was like, if I go to the Reds, okay. If I go to the Pirates, okay. Right. So
You'll be happy.
I heard the Reds and I heard the Pirates, but the Reds selected me. I was super excited about it, and it didn't take long. I got drafted in '85. I went right to AA, and it was funny because in college, unlike now, in college, we never used wood bats. We always used aluminum bats. So my swing was kind of So my swing was a little bit different in high school or in college. And then when I went to sign, I got a dozen bats, new bats with my name on it, right? I played 1 3-game series. After the 3-game series, I had 1 bat left.
That happened to everybody, Bobby. That happened to everybody.
3-game series. I had 1 bat left. And I hit 1 home run that year. But I did win. That was in 1985, and I played in Burlington, Vermont. And I slept on the floor of an apartment. My buddy Pryor was there. He was I lived with him and a guy named Terry McGriff, and I slept on the floor of an apartment on top of a restaurant called the Rusty Scuffer. And
Oh my God.
yeah, so it was like, you know, everybody thinks that it's all this glamour, all this great stuff going on. No.
It's nice that Baerga, you mentioned Terry McGriff. Terry McGriff, I play independent league with him. I mean, he was already older and all that, but Terry, catcher and all that. He always tells stories. And that was not that story, but that was one of the things that he always kept telling the kids, you know. I mean, everything is not glamour and all that. So don't get mad that independent, you're sleeping on the floor or something, because trust me, if you play in the minor league, it's going to be the same way. We did it too, Baerga. Bartolo Colon had to sleep in bed. Whenever he was going to pitch the next day, well, Bartolo, you have the bed. Next time I hit the bed. I mean, so I remember all that. I mean, even guys that got drafted with good money, because that first year, Barry, you know how it was. I thought you get drafted and you get your money right away. Nah, I mean, you have to wait months before you could even see a check. So, I mean, you have to do with a lot of spaghetti, meatball, and mac and cheese to be able to make it.
Yeah, I think when I got my first check, I think it was I think I was making $600 a month.
Wow.
And we were getting, so I think I got every paycheck, I think I got $300, but I was good. $300. I was ready to go.
Mucho chicken, mucho McDonald's, mucho everything in there. Oh my God. You know,
that's when I
learned. You know what? This is good.
That's when I learned That's when I learned about arroz y habichuelas, bro. Absolutely, bro. Because we were eating that all day long. I'm like, why are we eating that? It's because you can get a lot for a little.
I love it there. That's good that you mentioned this, because a lot of the new kids, man, they pay them so much money, especially international kids. International kid with 60 years old, making $2 million, 1.7, 1.8, and right away they just want to buy a car, jewelry, stuff like that, and they don't know what it takes to a lot of players. What they used to be like at the time that Roberto Clemente, at the time the Tony that we had the other day.
Tony Oliva was here,
Tony Oliva, all those players, they went through a tough time, and how they never, they always was focused, to go and play the game. They don't care about the other stuff. They want to play. They want to be prepared to play the game. And I know you went through that and you want prepared. Your first year, you had 131 RBI, but your second year, in 1986, you have in AAA 10 homers, and then you got 51 RBI, hit 329, and then you got called up to the big leagues. When that call came in, tell me where you was and what happened to you.
Well, that was an amazing story too, because we had just got back from a road trip. But I got to take you back a little bit, a week or so before I got called up to the big league. So we were playing at that time. We were playing in Denver, Colorado. That was our AAA team, the Denver Zephyrs. I lived at Boulder. I loved it out there. I loved the people out there. Just tremendous folks out in Colorado. And then we were playing in Indianapolis. So, and Indianapolis is not too far from Cincinnati. So when we play in Indianapolis, a lot of times the front office people would come to Indianapolis just to see the AAA affiliate of the Reds play in Indianapolis. So I get a call when I'm playing in Indianapolis from the minor league director, and he wants to talk to me at the pool. And I'm like playing well at the time. I'm playing shortstop. I'm playing well. Everything is great, but it's not just the minor league coordinator. It's also the guy who signed me or who came to my house. So it was like a big deal. And I'm like, I get a call from the manager, Tommy Reynolds, and he says, hey, Chief Bender and I forgot the other guy's name. They want to see you down at the pool. So I go and I'm like all excited because I'm thinking I'm playing well. We're close to Cincinnati. Something positive might be happening, right? So I go down to the pool, And when I get down there, I'm smiling, I'm happy and all, and they're sitting there and they're just kind of like got these serious faces on. I'm like, what's going on? They go, so you're playing pretty well, but, and I go, but, and they go, yeah, we think that in this organization, in order for you to make it to the big leagues, you're going to have to play second base. And I said, well, why? They said, because the way you field is unorthodox. The way you throw is unorthodox. The way you hit is unorthodox. The way you run is unorthodox. And we just don't think that you're going to be able to do that at the big league level the way that you do it. And I was like, I was shocked. You know, because I was playing so well.
You were ready to throw them in the pool.
So well. Well, so I said to them, I said, and this, you know, and this is the thing, these are the same guys that came to my house the previous year and told me in front of my parents that the only way I wouldn't play shortstop is if I played myself out of the position. The reason that conversation came up is because the year or two before I got drafted, they drafted a guy named Kurt Stillwell.
Yeah.
You had David Concepcion, and then you had Kurt Stillwell. And so I asked them specifically, I said, well, why would you draft me if you already have a shortstop, Kurt Stillwell? I'm just asking. And they were like, well, you this, that, and the other. And I said, well, am I going to get a chance to play shortstop? Absolutely. The only way you won't play shortstop, this was a conversation that I had when I got drafted, is if you play yourself out of this position. So the following year, they call me down to the pool in Indianapolis and they say, hey, you know, you got to play second base. And I go, well, you're the same guys that told me that the only way I wouldn't play shortstop is if I played myself out of the position. I have one error playing every single day at shortstop. I've made all the plays. I said, so why do I need to go to a different position? They said, well, they didn't say because the organization wants you to do this. They said, well, it's the way that you do things. You're unorthodox, and we don't think that's that. And now I'm mad. Now I'm mad. I mentioned
Listen to that, people. Listen to that.
I mentioned that competitive spirit. Now I'm mad. And I said, with all due respect, you told me that the only way I would not play shortstop is if I played myself out of the position. I don't believe I played myself out of the position. Matter of fact, I think I'm playing very well. So if you guys don't want me to play shortstop in Cincinnati, you should just trade me. And then I got up. I got up and I walked away. And as I was walking away, I was thinking, oh my Lord, what am I gonna I'm gonna have to call my mother, because I called my mom and I said, Mom, the guys want me, I'm coming down to the pool, or they asked me to come down to the pool, and I'll call you and let you know how things went.
Oh my God.
Now I have to call my mama and tell her that I told them to trade me. So as I was walking away, I was thinking, oh my goodness, my mother's gonna kill me for doing this. But it was, I didn't even think about it. It was just how I reacted because of what they said and how committed I was to it. And I didn't say it disrespectfully. I said, with all due respect, you know, I didn't act out. I didn't act. I was mad, but I was like, this is not right. And so I'm going to speak on it. And I did. The week later.
Just to let the people know, that's the way they talk to the players in arbitration. That's the way they talk to the player in arbitration.
Oh, yeah.
They throw you all the bad things. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You do nothing. Although you're hitting 320 and you made one error, you still aren't. I mean, you're not doing it the way you should be doing it.
Yeah, I know.
Unbelievable.
No, but the thing is, the thing is, I mean, continue with that. So kids know that are watching and all that, they start asking. I mean, you were a first round pick by then. I mean, so if you pick me first round, I think I have the voice to say, hey, man, you pick me as a shortstop. I'm going to be a shortstop. I'm doing my job. I mean, so I want you guys to know if you were a 30 round pick, I was a 22nd round pick, I would have to say, okay, I'm going to go to second base and nothing I could do. But when you have a voice, I think, Barry, I mean, why not? I mean, you made me the first round pick. How in the world are you going to move me?
Right. But, you know, if they told me something like the organization wants you to do this, or our plan is to have you and Stillwell be our shortstop second base combination and whatever. If they told me something like the organization wants it, like it wasn't that the organization wanted me to move. It was that I had to move because I myself was unorthodox in how I did things. And I think that's what upset me. It was like you saw me, I was unorthodox, and you picked me with the 4th pick in the country. But
that's amazing. And the thing is, listen to this. He win the Rookie of the Year in the minor leagues, and then he win in AAA the Player of the Year of the organization. So he didn't do anything wrong. This is amazing. You know what? The bad thing is here is when they give you Player of the Year, anywhere they give it to you, they don't like it. They don't like it.
So let me finish. So
go ahead.
So a week after, so I got up and I walked away, and then we finished playing. Then we go on the road, and a week later, I get a call from Pete Rose, and it said, "Hey, I need you in Cincinnati tomorrow night. You're my starting shortstop." I'm like, "What?" Right? So a week later, I get a call to go to Cincinnati. So we just got back off the road. You asked me where I was. I was in Boulder, Colorado at my apartment. I was unpacking my stuff. I lived with a guy named Orsino Hill. And we were going through unpacking our stuff, and I got a call from Pete Rose. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I had to catch a flight, like, I think he called me like 6 o'clock in the morning. I had to catch a flight at like 9:30 that day in order to get back to Cincinnati, because, you know, when you fly from the West Coast back to the East Coast, you lose all these hours, right? 3 hours it was at the time. So I was supposed to fly and connect in, I don't know. I think I was supposed to fly out of Denver to somewhere to get to Cincinnati. And I was supposed to get to Cincinnati at 4 o'clock for a 7:05 game, or 5 o'clock for a 7:35 game. So I make my first flight. So I throw all my stuff into a bag, and Orsino's like, "No, I'll just send you the rest of the stuff. You just got to go." So I took my baseball stuff, put it in the bag, a couple items, got in the bag, got on the plane. And I think I got on the plane like a couple minutes, like 30 minutes before they closed the door. So I was huffing and puffing, and, you know, I was sweating, all this kind of stuff. So we get on the plane, and then the plane is delayed. And they said, well, we were supposed to fly to Chicago, but there's weather in Chicago. So our plane is going to have to be redirected. So we went from Denver to Dallas-Fort Worth. Now, weather in Dallas-Fort Worth was terrible as well. Then we were supposed to go from Dallas-Fort Worth to Cincinnati, but we couldn't because the weather was bad. So I went from Dallas-Fort Worth to Detroit.
Wow.
I mean, you're finally going to play shortstop, and they got you
everywhere. Have Barry Larkin coming out to the big league. So let's do a tour for the airport.
So I went from Dallas-Fort Worth to Detroit, and then I sat in Detroit for a couple of hours, and then flew from Detroit to Cincinnati. And I think I got in Cincinnati at about 6:45. So it's a 7:35 game. So I fly into Cincinnati. The Reds pick me up. They have a police escort. We drive to the game. I walk into the stadium about 7:15. Pete Rose is the manager. And Pete Rose is sitting there waiting on me. And I walk into the clubhouse because everybody's out on the field. He's sitting in there because they're on the radio saying, hey, we got Lark. He'll be here and blah, 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 blah. So Pete Rose waits for me to get to his office. And you know what he says to me?
You late, kid?
He says, Larkin, your first day in the big leagues and you're already late.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, no, Skip. And he's like, do you have any stuff? I was going to start you, but I can't start you now. Do you have any stuff? I said, I have no bags. There were no, at that time, my bags were in Dallas, Fort Worth, or Chicago, or wherever, but they weren't with me. I only had whatever backpack or whatever I had, and I think I might have had my glove. I think that's the only thing I had. He said, do you have any stuff? I was like, no. He said, what size shoe you wear? And I looked at his shoes, and he had those Mizunos. I said, whatever size those are, I think they'll work, right? Then I get out on the field, and, guys are like, give me some love. I get at, the game starts. I'm late walking onto the bench, right? And I have my uniform, and Bernie Stowe takes care of me, and the clubhouse guy in Cincinnati loved him. God rest his soul as well. And, I get out on the field, and Eric Davis is there, and Dave Parker's there, and all these guys are there, Buddy Bell, and, they're like, hey, Buddy Bell wrote, do you have, what do you have? I'm like, I got nothing. So, other than my hat and my jersey and my glove, I think I had Eric Davis gave me some bag gloves. Dave Parker gave me his wristbands. Buddy Bell gave me his whatever. And Pete Rose gave me his shoes and his bat to use.
Oh, my God.
My friend, let me say something to you. You was blessed from the first day that you got up to the village. Pete Rose shoes. Dave Parker. That's one of my idols. Dave Parker. You have Eddie Davis. The best. Wow.
I mean, Baerga, he was wearing like $2 million worth of things right now.
So I had everybody's stuff. I had everybody's stuff, and it was amazing. And so I got a chance to pinch hit later in the game, and I hit a ground out. There was a runner on third base. I grounded out to shortstop. You remember Jose Uribe?
Uribe, yeah, campo corto.
Campo corto threw me out at first base. I got a ground out RBI, my first at bat, and I was just floating. As you said, I was in heaven. So after the game, I got time to sit around and talk to the guys. So I'm sitting there, and the media is around, and they're talking to me, and Pete Rose is sitting there, and I'm just like, I'm floating, right? So after the game, after all the media leaves, Buddy Bell and Eric and Dave Parker come up to me, and we'll see you tomorrow. I'll be here early. We got a lot of work to do. Okay. And then Pete Rose comes up to me and says, hey, man, how was that experience? And I go, man, great. He was like, how those shoes feel? I said, they felt amazing. I felt like I could fly in them. He was like, what about the bat? I said, bro, this bat is amazing. He's like, they felt good in your hand? I was like, yeah, they felt great. He said, good, because they feel better in my hand, so give them back. I'm like, what? So he knew because if he did not ask me for that, I was going to take him home, and he was never going to see him again.
I know.
Never.
I know.
So I got a chance to use Pete Rose bat. Pete Rose bat, his shoes, my first at bat, and it was a ground out RBI to Jose Uribe. And,
Uribe, wow. I mean, that's it, Baerga. That's just way too much of experience. I mean, and I know, I mean, going to the Reds, I mean, for you, how to be plus that. I mean, I'm playing with the Reds in the big league, and there's a lot of people that know me around the city here because they already follow my career. You're able to do it there. I mean, that's just, I mean, I think that's just way too special, Barry. I mean, way too special. I know you probably felt it completely after you retire. You probably sit down and think about it and say, oh, yeah, man, that is amazing because the way you're talking right now, I could see your eyes. It's like you're going back to that moment again. And I mean, in the moment you will never in your life gonna forget.
Yeah, that's for sure. So let me finish the story though. So those same guys that came to me in Indianapolis and told me I was unorthodox. About a week or two later, they come to me in Cincinnati and they said, "We always knew you could do it."
Why they always do that? Why they always do that?
They told me we just wanted to make sure that you believe that. I was like, right now. I was not. I mean, not happy.
We're gonna trade Kurt Stewart to Kansas City and everything. I mean, he's gone.
well, Palillito, listen to this. So Pete Rose. So I'm talking to Pete Rose a few years ago, and he says, "I don't know if I ever told you the story or not." And I said, "Well, what's that?" He said, "This talks a little bit about. I knew you were going to be a successful player because you had this confidence about yourself." And I thought he was going to talk to me about what I told the guys, hey, if you don't want me to, you need to trade me. He said that he came to me. He said he came to me my rookie season. He said, "I have a problem." And he said, and my problem is this. I have 2 shortstops. Actually, I have 3. I got to trade one of you guys away. I'm not trading David Concepcion because he's about to retire. But I got to trade either you or Kurt Stillwell. And I just want to know from you who you think I should trade. Now, he said that I said to him, well, you better go ahead and trade Stillwell because I'm going to be your shortstop for the next 15 to 20 years.
Good.
He said that I said that to him. And I'm going, there is no way I said this to Pete Rose. He said, yes, you did. And that's the reason.
Wow.
And I saw it in your eyes, and that's the reason I traded Stillwell, is because you told me you were going to be the first, you were going to be my shortstop for the next 15 to 20 years. You are my first and my only Hall of Fame baseball player. And that and I knew that because the look in your eye, and you told me that you were going to be that guy. I was like,
that's determination. That's determination. That's attitude. That character that you have when you believe in yourself, when you believe in your talent. And there's a lot of players in the building right now that they don't even have that. They don't even know that they belong there, how they get there. And that, sometimes it does a fall for the front office. Then they bring people too quick. And then they send it back right away. And they say, you cannot play in the business. That's it. That's why it's important to prepare yourself. Be strong here mentally. So when you get there, you're going to go through a tough time, but you know that you're going to get out. So that's a big thing right there. My friend, 1988, you made your first All-Star game. Tell us about that because that's something special.
Yeah, that was amazing. An amazing experience, as well as my second full year. I got called up in 86. 87 was my first full year. And I think that was my first home run, Lamar Hoyt.
Yeah, you were wearing number 15. Yeah.
I was wearing 15, and I wanted number 11, but Stillwell was wearing number 11. And when Stillwell left to go to Kansas City, I wore that.
Look at Buddy Bell.
Yeah, look at the love. I mean, they got the love, man. They love you, man. They love you from day one.
Pete Rose, Buddy Bell.
Yeah.
Just some John Franco right there, Teddy Power, Eric. Dave Parker's right there. I mean, these guys were amazing. So my first All-Star game. You saying
You
something?
there, Baerga?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so 1988 was my first All-Star game, and it was amazing because the captain of the team, the honorary captain of the team, was Willie Stargell.
Oh.
And so I wasn't starting. Yeah, I wasn't starting, but I had a chance to sit there. You know, the All-Star game experience it's amazing because you're playing with all the best players in the game at the time. And, you know, I was a young player and I was just trying to take in all. I was 24 years old. I was trying to take it all in, and I was around so many great older baseball players. I was like one of two really younger players there, and playing in Cincinnati, my hometown. Yeah. So it was just incredible. But Willie Stargell the whole time was talking to me about the difference between the American League and the National League, because at that time there was no interleague play. Yeah. And he said, eventually when you go to the playoffs, you'll see these guys. And so we were just sitting there and talking the whole game. And then whoever was the coach, I forgot who was the manager of the All-Star team, told me I was going to pinch hit in the game. And Dennis Eckersley was either coming in or whatever. So Willie Stargell sat there and told me about Dennis Eckersley and told me, now listen, these American League guys, they pitch backwards. They throw a lot of breaking balls. So don't even go up there thinking fastball. Just go up there and wait on his daggone breaking ball, because that's all they throw. He was talking about how pretty they are and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. He had me 100% convinced that I wasn't going to see a four-seam fastball, right? So I go up there, first pitch, fastball. Take it.
You look at the
I'm gonna sit on this breaking ball. Second pitch, fastball. I'm like, hold on a second. Third pitch, I swing and foul tip it into the catcher's glove, strike three. And then I walk back, you know, and I'm in Cincinnati, so I got a standing ovation after I just struck out all three pitches. So I walk back to the dugout, and I'm like, dang. And then Willie Stargell comes up to me and says, son, let me talk to you about making adjustments in the big leagues.
I thought he was going to say, hey, make sure you know Willie Stargell, okay? You are a young kid.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I didn't know Willie Stargell like that, but he was pulling my chain a little bit. But he came to me, he's like, young man, come on over here. Let me talk to you about making adjustments in the big league.
Hey,
so that was my first All-Star game experience.
By the way, Baerga, he's talking about All-Star game. I mean, you're going to have to tell us a little bit about your 99 experience with Pedro.
That was ridiculous. Pedro that day. No, once again, we were playing in his hometown in Boston. And, you know, leading off the game, and I had a great year that year going off, and it was crazy, the excitement, and you know, I was on fire, and I thought I was just gonna go out there and just win the MVP of the game. And Pedro came out throwing, that ball's not a strike. He came out throwing absolute bullets. So I fouled off a few pitches. And then he had me walking the dog on this changeup. It was just, I mean, there it was, 97. Now he's starting to get loose a little bit.
I like this pitch now. I
mean, look at now, that's 98. Like, come on, Pedro. He's like, come on.
Wow.
I gave you a chance, and you just kept fouling them off. So that ball was way off the plate. I saw Pedro. Next time I saw Pedro after that, I was like, man, see, you ain't even right. He's like, bro, I gave you a chance. I threw you about 4 or 5 strikes. All you had to do is just make contact. I'm like,
how tough was to face him? I mean, because people think that when we tell them that Pedro was something amazing, people are like, there's no way, he's not that tall. I mean, what else did Pedro have? But I mean, how tough was when you get in the box?
Pedro was different because you would expect to have Pedro was different. The ball came out of his hand differently. It's tough to explain because I liked facing shorter pitchers because they didn't have so much tilt. I guess this one, so much tilt. They didn't have tilt on their ball, and and so for me, I'm trying to keep this light out of your guys' face. So for me, for me, I like facing guys that threw kind of a flat ball, but Pedro's ball had like giddy up on it, and it was, I don't know, it was something. I talked to him later on, and I found out how flexible his fingers were, and how the ball kind of stayed in his hand a little bit longer, and how he created so much whip with his fingers being so like elastic and all this kind of stuff, and it was just amazing. He had like a certain gear to his fastball. It wasn't a normal fastball, it was like it was amazing. And then his changeup, all of his pitches were amazing. And they were all amazing. And you get excited, like when you face like a Randy Johnson or a Roger Clemens or even a Nolan Ryan. You get excited. A bigger guy, you get excited because you could see the power out there and they're bringing it, and you're getting prepared for it. But with Pedro, it was like, okay, he's not as big as me, and where does all this power come from?
Yeah.
But he used to throw the ball. I got to tell you a story about Pedro. So it was the only
Pedro
time.
Was special, man, special guy.
Pedro was amazing. It was the only time that I had seen a guy with a perfect game get charged from a hitter. So we're playing Montreal, and Pedro's pitching in Montreal.
Wow.
And Pedro had pitched a couple times against us. And there was a player we had on our team, Reggie Sanders.
Oh.
Every single time that Pedro or that Reggie would face Pedro would throw up and underneath Reggie's chin, like every single time. And we never knew why, but I'm assuming it's because he was trying to get Reggie was leaning over the plate and he was trying to get Reggie off his breaking ball. I assume. So we're facing Pedro, and Pedro, he's carving us up, and Pedro has a perfect game. Now, this game I'm hitting third, Reggie's hitting second. So it is the 7th inning. Pedro has a perfect game going on. One out in the 7th inning, we're playing in Montreal. And Reggie comes up to me and he says, "Lark, if this dude throws up and in at me, I'm going to get him." And I'm like, "Reggie, he's got a perfect game, but you know what? If he throws up and in, go get him because he got a perfect game. Hopefully they get him out of the game and whatever."
That's the way he pitched.
Lo and behold, Reggie, first pitch is kind of up, second pitch is up and in, and Reggie Sanders runs to the mound, and we have this big breakout fight with Pedro. And Pedro was in the middle of a perfect game.
Wow.
So it was the only time I ever been. I've been part of a perfect game before, but Pedro had a perfect game. By the way, Pedro, I think I hit my 100th home run off Pedro. Now, you show all these videos. Yeah, you show all these videos of Pedro striking folks out. We got Pedro too now. Pedro is mortal. So
seven.
Yeah, he's in the lead role, bro. Let me tell you that now.
I know. Brother, you changed the style of the shortstop in the big leagues. You win 5 different years in a row. 5 years in a row, you win the Silver Slugger Award. You win the MVP in 1995. You in the World Series in 1990. You hit 353. Everybody was knowing about you as a hitter. You know, everybody know that you can hit, but you changed the game. You know, hitting 300 for 6 years in a row. You know, and everything is changed. Tell me when in 1995 when you win the MVP.
Yeah, that was a great year, 95. But you know, I feel like any and every year that I really did well offensively, it was because I had so many, and that's 96 right there. It's because I had so many different guys around me. And if it was Reggie Sanders, or you see Sean Casey right there, Kevin Mitchell hitting behind me. One year I had a great year. Deion Sanders was hitting in front of me. You know, I just had so many great players around me. Ron Gant was on top of his game at that time. Greg Vaughn, you know, Dimitri Young. I had a whole bunch of really, really good players hitting either in front of me or behind me. And in 95, you know, it was just one of those years. I think Deion was there. I don't know if Deion was there in 95 or not. Deion was there, and I mentioned all those other guys. It was like, okay, are we going to pitch to Lark, or are we going to face Kevin Mitchell? No, we're going to pitch to Barry, right? Or Junior, you know, Griffey came to Cincinnati later on, and, you know, I'm hitting in front of Junior. So I'm seeing fastball pitches out over the plate, hittable pitches all day long, because they don't want to face Junior with me on base. So, you know, so for me, it was a great season. You know, that year in 95, we had, you know, it was we were winning. We went to the playoffs. Unfortunately, we got beat by Atlanta in the first round of the playoffs, but we were playing super well. The team was doing well. And I think the reason that I won the MVP was, and I talked to Peter Gammons about this a little bit, it's because of the intangibles. That year, like I said, we won, but that year we had a lot of meetings, and I was the captain of the team. We were struggling for a while, and we had a meeting where I lost my mind and screaming up and down, and the media heard about it, and they talked about the intangibles a lot. And then we won a lot of games that we weren't supposed to win. So I did well on the field, but I think they took into consideration that year a lot of the stuff that was happening off the field, a lot of stuff that happened in the clubhouse that led to us winning, or their interpretation of why we were able to win. So
I remember they used to talk about you a lot, and they will always compare the 1988 season of Kirk Gibson. He didn't hit 30 home runs, he didn't drive in 100 wrong, and all that. And they were saying all the intangibles. I mean, what Kirk Gibson was doing with the Dodgers off the field, fighting with them, and all this meeting. But I do remember that what you're talking about, when you got mad and the whole media got a hold of it. If they would have been now, I mean, social media would have got a hold of this, and that would be a big thing, because you showed that you were the captain and that you really, you were a winner. But in 96, you became the first shortstop ever to hit 30 home runs and stole 30 bases. I mean, I guess you knew how to do it. Once you hit 30, might as well stole 30, because, nobody has done it. But, I mean, when you were looking for that, when you hit like 20 home runs, you told yourself, I have a chance. I could do it.
No, I wasn't a home run hitter, and I think in 96, I think what happened was I just had a whole bunch of doubles that happened to get elevated. And, I was never a guy, you saw the home run right there that I hit for the 30th home run. I was never a guy that hit the ball in the air. I was always a line drive hitter, and those line drives just happened to get elevated. You can see right there, I'm hitting in front of Eric Davis and Eduardo Perez, and, and Lenny Harris is right there. So, I never was a guy. I mean, my launch angle, if you will, is what they talk about nowadays. I wasn't a guy that hit the ball in the air. I was a guy that hit the ball on the line, and I tried to stay on the line from gap to gap. That year, the ball just happened to get elevated. I wasn't trying to hit home runs. I never tried to hit home runs. I wasn't a home run hitter. Actually, the times that I tried to hit home runs were the times that I struck out or hit ground balls because I could not work that way. You know, I just wasn't that guy. So it was funny because in '96, I mean, I was in great shape, and you know, I was on top of my game physically. In '95, I won the MVP, so my confidence was high. And then '96, I thought I should have had more chance to win the MVP because I think I've had a better year in '96 than I did in '95 statistically. But I don't even know if I had consideration. I'm not even sure where I came in an MVP.
I think you finished 12.
And then in '97, okay. And then '97, I tore my Achilles. Right, so I tore my Achilles in spring training. I remember we were facing Roger Clemens. We were playing in Dunedin, Florida. He was with Toronto at the time. It was rainy or kind of wet, and I hit a ball, and I went to run to first base, and I slipped. My spike slipped on home plate, and I felt like a snap in the back of my left calf, and that was the beginning of the tear of my Achilles. But anyway, in '97. After I hit 33 home runs in '96, in '97 I had 4 home runs, right? So we used to have Kangaroo Court. And in Kangaroo Court, I was the judge, and you know, I was actually the judge, the jury, and the executioner. So I was the captain, so everybody in the clubhouse had to have a case when we would have Kangaroo Court. Or I would fine them like $100 for not like participating, right? So we get around the room, and you know, we're getting to the end, and you know, I get to Jose Rio or someone, and I was like, "Okay, so do you have a case?" He's like, "Yeah, I have a case. I have a case against you, Judge." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, what's this one gonna be?" He's like, "Yeah, you know, so back in the day, they used to have these milk cartons." And if there was like a missing person or something, they would put that person on a milk carton. So these guys got a milk carton, and they taped my baseball card from '96 on the milk carton, and then they wrote on the milk carton, "Have you seen this guy?" So they bring this milk carton into Kangaroo Court. Now remember, I'm the judge, so I'm running. I'm handing out fines and all kind of stuff, right? So they have a judgment, or they have a case against me. So I'm sitting there, and there's no swearing, no cussing, no speaking out of turn. I mean, I got all kind of rules, right? No speaking English. If you speak English, every word in English that you say is a $10 fine. So you tiene que hablar en español. So yeah, whatever, you know, whatever it is, right? So they said, so we have this case against you, Judge, and I'm like, what is it? They said, well, last year you hit 30 home runs and you hit 33 home runs and drove in however many. This year you have 4 home runs. So, you know, the team is struggling. You hit almost 30 home runs less. The team is struggling. So we need to fine you just, I mean, I don't know, $50 a home run for letting down the team. I was like, oh my goodness. So it was an expensive fine.
Let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what happened. The thing was, you know why they did it? Because after David Concesión, the only captain that made the team, you know, in Cincinnati was you. They make you a captain of that team. You know, after David Concesión, there wasn't nobody that put on a captain. It was you in there. So you was the man in that organization. But I want to ask you something. I know that you work on TV for Cincinnati right now, and watching the games for the last few years, you watching, I see your numbers here, strikeout numbers. The most that you have was 69 one year. After that, you went down 50, 40, 20, 30, like that. And when you watch the game right now, and you watch guys getting 180, 190 strikeout, hitting 235, 30 home runs, 235. You know, do you like that kind of numbers?
You know, it's a different game, Carlo. So for me, I try not to compare how the game was played when we played to how the game is played now. I think if I were playing now, I would not strike out as much as these guys because for me, it was something personal. The personal thing for me was striking out and making a fielding error. Those are the two things that I could control, right? So not striking out on a called third strike, but striking out swinging. You know, if a called third strike, I thought it was a ball and the umpire called it a strike, you know, I would be upset about that, but I didn't swing. I couldn't control that, right? Fielding a ground ball, if I got my glove on the ground ball, then I needed to catch the ball. So when I see players now, I think they emphasize different things, and it's whatever is important to the player, you know, and the way that the players are being judged now. You know, their slugging percentage is something that's really important. So they train to try to have a better slugging. You know, my slugging was whatever it was. I didn't worry about my slugging. I just tried to get on base. Now, I feel like players aren't just trying to get on base. They're trying to get to that next level because of how they're being judged and how they're being categorized, and ultimately how they will eventually get paid or not paid. So I think just because of the way that the game of baseball is grading these players, it really affects the way how they think about the game and the way that they approach the game. So, you know, so it's different in that respect. The game is still the game. The game is, you know, you have to hit the ball, field it, and throw. So the game hasn't changed, but I feel like the way that players are being judged and the way that that organizations have people in place that make the determination on these players, it's different in that respect.
And I think that's what we always been talking about the product, because of course the fan wants to see the game, but it's the product that you put out there. When you guys were playing, the team was always constructed differently. I mean, let's say for example in the 90s, your team had everything. You got a Paul O'Neill, a different type of hitter in the outfield. You got you in shortstop. You even got Luis Quiñones, my man, in the dugout. He would come off pinch hit. I mean, you even had those kind of players. You got guys like Joe Oliver behind the plate, defense first, do your job. Whatever you could do hitting, it's okay. You got the guys in the bullpen. I mean, you got a Rob Dibble that was, oh my God, crazy like he could be. I mean, you got all this stuff, but every team, Barry, was different. Like when you played the Cardinals, your games against the Cardinals was awesome because they didn't have that much power, but they were going to find a way to hit and run you, stealing bases and all that. But now the only thing that I can get used to a little is that every game that you put on, no matter what game you're watching, it's all the same. Every hitter wants to try to hit home run. Even Brett Gardner, for example, in the Yankees, is trying to hit home runs. And I'm like, I mean, I used to see Barry Larkin try to put the ball in play, hit gaps, hit behind the runner, do all that stuff. So I think that's the game hasn't changed, of course, but the product that we're used to, we feel like a little missing out. But I mean, I understand that it's a new way. You need to make your money. And if I can hit 300, but my OBP could be 400, I'll get paid. So I'm going to find a way to get the OBP because Joey Votto used to drive me crazy. How many walks he got. I was like, come on, swing the bat. You could do it because he saw it before. But before you go, tell us a little about how this felt in 98 when you were able to play with your brother in the same game. And of course, Aaron Boone and Brett Boone was there too.
Yeah, I was that might have been one of the most nervous times that I was on the field as my brother Steve. And he got a hit. And so, you know, this was his only major league game playing. And that's Jose Silva, I think, pitching. And I remember, he got a hit. So I remember, like, Jack McKeon was our manager, and Jack McKeon said to me, he's like, "Hey, do you want to get a?" Yeah, there it is, right there.
Look at you, man. You enjoying that, man. Oh my God.
I was so excited. I was so excited. So I got 3 at-bats a game. So early in the game, I was playing, and it was the last game of the season, and we were 20 games out, so we weren't really playing for anything. And Jack McKeon came up to me and said, "Hey, would you like to get another at-bat to try to get a hit in the same game as your brother got a hit?" And it was Aaron Boone at third, me at short, Brett Boone at second, and Steve at first. It was the first time in the history of Major League Baseball that 2 sets of brothers played on the team and on the same infield. It was amazing. So I said, "Yeah, I want to get a hit." So I was grinding out my last at bat, and they brought in this lefty that threw about 1 billion and had no idea, because the Pirates always had these hard-throwing players, and he was just slinging it. So I get to 3-2, and I'm grinding out in the bat, and my last pitch of that at-bat, this guy just absolutely drills me in the ribs with like a 95-mile-an-hour cutter, and I couldn't even get out of it. And for that whole winter, I wore this big old bruise on my left rib cage and couldn't breathe, trying to get a hit in the same game as my brother.
Wow. So you're never gonna forget about. Forget about that. Always gonna stay there, man.
Never.
Never. I have to say something. I have to say something to the fans that we have here. It's an honor to have a real Hall of Famer here. This guy was a Hall of Famer since the beginning, before he signed. Player of the Year in college, Player of the Year in the minor leagues, Player of the Year, in the big leagues, 12 All-Star game, batting champion, MVP in 1995, 3 Gold Gloves, 9 Silver Slugger, Roberto Clemente Award. That's something that a lot of people don't talk about, but that we have to talk about, what you do off the field, taking care of other people. Thank you for doing that, man. That's something that's a bless, and that's something that we learned from Roberto and Jackie Robinson. And thank you for you being one of the players that win an award for that. Cincinnati Red, retire your number. You are the Cincinnati Red Hall of Fame, but you are in the Hall of Fame on the big leagues. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to have you with us today. What a moment. We learned so much from you, man. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. I appreciate the time, fellas, and continue success, and I'll be watching for sure.
Hey, Mike, you forgot to say bench player in the 1984 Olympic team. We have to put that in there too.
Caddy.
Hey, Caddy. No, you are Alfonso. Wow, that's amazing. But you know what? I play with Gary Green. That guy never hit, even in the minor leagues, even in the big leagues. I don't know how he do not play in front of him, but you know what? It was an honor today to have you with us. What a story you have, man. And thanks to your mother and your father, to the people that just got in, late. You know what? You have to listen to this, you have to see this video, because the family said to him, we have to study. You have to go to college. That's more important than anything. And that's something that a lot of parents now, they forget about, the important is to study, man. Brother, God bless you. All the best for you. Thank you for being an awesome guy and a Hall of Famer for us, man. Thank you.
All right, brother. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Muchas gracias. Well, ahí, señores, teníamos a Barry Larkin. Yo sé que, ¿verdad? Uno se acostumbra a Baerga, a hablar un poquito de inglés y toda esa cuestión, y se le queda pegado el inglés a uno. Pero nada, un caballete de verdad, Barry Larkin con el equipo de Cincinnati, tuvo toda su carrera con el equipo de Cincinnati, naciendo y criándose ahí en Cincinnati, que tiene algo bien bueno. Y Leo Cárdenas, que él habló de Leo Cárdenas, que era un cubano que jugó en Grandes Ligas con Cincinnati, y después tener la oportunidad, Vargas, llegar a Cincinnati ahí. Pero sí recuerdo cuando se hablaba Barry Larkin, pero Kurt Stewart va a ser el caballo. Kurt Stewart va a ser el caballo. Y mira, terminó siendo Barry Larkin que se quedó ahí, pero wow, qué historia fenomenal, de verdad.
No, espectacular la historia de él. Y él y Gary y Carrie, que cambiaron la mentalidad que mucha gente tenía de lo que era un campo corto, ¿entiendes? Campo corto había que coger la bola porque Ozzie Smith, por tantos años primero que él, ¿entiendes? Ganándose el guante de oro, todas estas cosas. Pero este hombre hacía las dos y de verdad que era espectacular. Era como le dijeron ¿cómo es? La gerencia del equipo. Él no era flashy, él sí cogía la bola, tiraba a primera, corría, tenía otros talentos que muchos no tenían, y algo que a mí a Palillito nos encanta es que el hombre no se ponchaba. Batió sobre 300, creo que fueron, si no me deto, 9 o 10 veces en su carrera de los 19 años. Puso la bola en juego en todo momento, y yo le decía a Mr. Clutch, porque siempre lo veía,
pero en el béisbol de ahora, usted se puede ponchar, ¿verdad, Delgado? Usted se puede ponchar.
Ay, mi madre. No.
Usted se puede ponchar en el béisbol de ahora, pero en el de anterior. Pero nada, qué bueno que estaba aquí con nosotros. Y gracias de verdad a Barry por estar un ratito aquí con nosotros, Baerga. Así que ya lo saben, estamos en YouTube, esto está en YouTube, está en Facebook, está en Twitch, está en las redes sociales de nosotros, en Instagram. Vamos a poner un pedacito para traerlos ustedes acá. Así que gracias, Baerga. Y yo sé que pues, al ser al mediodía, pues se le hace difícil a muchos de ustedes probablemente ver esto cuando lo estábamos haciendo en vivo, pero disfrútelo tan pronto lo pueda ver, escúchelo y de verdad, otros Hall of Famer aquí con nosotros, Baerga. La lista está grande, Baerga, de los Hall of Famer, así que vaya buscándolos en YouTube. Vaya buscándolos en YouTube.
La lista está impresionante. Le quería decir, Palillito, y no te lo había dicho a ti, no sé si te lo había dicho, anoche me tiró Oscar me tiró y me dice, mira, te tengo a Odalis García, el caballete de los Texas Rangers para mañana. Y yo no le he preguntado a Palillito porque no se me había olvidado completamente porque tuve esta mañana, pero lo tenemos para mañana a las 9 de la noche. Él me va a estar contestando hoy más tarde. Le dejaremos saber en las redes qué ocurre, pero eso es una bendición. El caballete que ahora mismo está teniendo un año fuera de liga con el equipo de Texas.
Definitivo, pues perfecto, lo tenemos, señor. Así que gracias por estar aquí con nosotros un ratito. Desde acá, pues le vuelvo a decir a mi hija que está en la escuela, ya mismo sale, pero va para su graduación hoy, así que vamos a estar esta noche a las 6 allí, de 6 a 8 allí, gozando con ella, disfrutando con Larisa. Así que mire, si usted está cerca de Salem, llegue.
Felicidades, Larisa, muchas bendiciones, siga hacia adelante, voy a ti.
Eso es así. Así que, Baerga, nos vamos a ver. Entonces, a lo mejor sacamos un ratito por la noche tarde y los vamos a ustedes en Instagram y hablamos un ratito con ustedes. Así que gracias por estar con nosotros. De verdad, gracias a nuestros auspiciadores, Baerga. Y nada, Dios te bendiga, hermanito.
Dios me los bendiga a todos. Ya te sabes, First Medical y Tostito siempre llevándolo lo mejor a ustedes. Dios me los bendiga.
Mira, mami, se le cayó el diente. ¡Se le cayó el diente!
Quien nos conoce sabe que aquí en Puerto Rico todo se festeja. Celebramos la llegada,
5 de mayo,
las tradiciones de otros y, claro, nuestras victorias. Por algo somos uno de los países más felices del mundo. Tostitos, cualquier excusa es buena.
Saludos, soy Carlos Baerga y junto a First Medical Health Plan Inc. hoy quiero orientarte sobre los efectos secundarios de la vacuna contra el COVID-19. De acuerdo con lo que se conoce acerca del COVID-19, los expertos recomiendan vacunarte, ya que esto podría evitar que te enfermes gravemente, incluso si te contagias del COVID-19. Las vacunas ayudarán al sistema inmune para que estés en condiciones de combatir el virus si te ves expuesto al mismo. Esta acción también puede proteger a las personas a tu alrededor, en especial aquellas con mayor riesgo de enfermarse gravemente. Es posible que experimentes efectos secundarios luego de la administración de la vacuna, las cuales son signos normales de que tu cuerpo está generando protección. Estos deberían desaparecer al cabo de pocos días e incluyen dolor e hinchazón en el brazo donde recibiste la vacuna inyectable y en el resto del cuerpo, fiebre, escalofríos, cansancio y dolor de cabeza. Si nota que estos efectos empeoran, consulta a tu médico. Para más información, accede a nuestra página electrónica www.firstmedicalpr.com. Búscanos en las redes sociales como First Medical Health Plan Inc. y danos like o follow. First Medical, el plan que te da más, está comprometido con tu salud y te informa sobre los efectos secundarios de la vacuna